All right guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be discussing some of the food plot brands that are really popular these days, all of them that we have personal experience planting over the past couple of years. And we're going to share some of our thoughts and experiences to hopefully allow you to make a more educated, better decision in terms of what seed you should be planting in your food plots on your property. So the first thing I want to address right off the bat is, as of recording this video, we do not have any sort of affiliation with any of these products here. Obviously that could change in the future, but as of right now, we're not affiliated or associated with any of these products. This is all just based on our knowledge and experience from planting these seeds over the past couple of years. But we're not trying to sell you on anything here. Doesn't make a difference to us what you go with. The goal here is just to kind of give you the most information that we can so that you know what to use for yourself going forward. So the first seed company I want to talk about today is Domain. They're very popular right now. They are very quickly growing. I'm sure you've probably heard of them. If you shop at Fleet Farm at all, you've probably seen them on the shelves. This is kind of their flagship seed variety. They have a ton of them on the shelves there, always very accessible. And that's actually one of the main selling points for me for this seed brand. This one in particular is called Showstopper, but they have, it's got to be well over a dozen, maybe 2 dozen different seed varieties. So right off the bat, I want to talk pricing. So this guy plants half an acre and it was 25 bucks at Fleet Farm. So on a per acre basis, you're looking at about 50 bucks to plant Domain Showstopper for an acre. That's pretty good. That's going to be on the cheaper side of things. I have found that most of the Domain products tend to be on the cheaper side. So that's definitely a main selling point. The other thing for me is the accessibility. You're not paying for shipping and handling because you can just go get it at the store. And when you get big bags of seed, especially something like this is a 20-pound bag here, it costs a lot of money just to have it shipped, regardless of what the seed itself costs. So when you're looking at something like the Domain products that you can just go pick up right at the store, you know, for 25 bucks for that, 50 bucks to plant an acre, and you don't have to pay for shipping and handling, you're gonna have a hard time finding anything cheaper than that if you're ordering online. Now, I don't have personal experience planting Domain, but Jake does. And he's obviously had a lot of success over the years, shot a lot of nice bucks between, you know, him and his dad and his uncles hunting on that property. Now he's planting in some sandier soils, which is definitely something that can inhibit the growth of food plots a little bit. It's not ideal conditions. And one thing that he found was the Domain products were able to grow in those sandier conditions, but for him in particular, he's got a lot of smaller sized plots. Plots that, you know, probably a half acre on the bigger side, could get down to a third or a quarter of an acre. They're more of a hunting plot. They're certainly not a big, you know, 3-5 acre plot by any stretch of the imagination. So one thing that he found in central Wisconsin with really high deer numbers is the deer would just completely eat it to the ground and not even really give it much of a chance to grow. So that's not necessarily a knock on the seed itself. That has to do more with the size of the plot, the growing conditions being sandier soils, the deer population being really, really high. There's just a lot of mouths to feed, and when this stuff starts growing, they just go right at it. So I have noticed personally, planting on a different property with some of these other varieties, they don't get eaten down to the dirt quite as quick. You know, and that could have to do with the deer population. You're looking at different properties, different counties, so it's not an exact science there, but you know, potentially a faster growing seed variety might kind of offset the quickness that those deer are going to try and eat it down to the dirt. So that could be something to consider when you're going with Domain. Now, the one downside that I see for Domain, and this could even just be on a personal level, they have, like I said, a ton of different varieties. It's got to be, you know, 12, 15, 20. I mean, they have a ton. The problem is a lot of them are basically the same thing, the same seeds, just being used in a different percentage. So they've got a couple different Brassica blends that basically all have the same mixture of the radish and the turnip and, you know, a couple other things. And it's all the same seed, just in different percentages. So you might have one that's a higher percentage radish, another that's a higher percentage turnip. To me, the reason why I would see that as a downside is, you know, if you're a beginner and you're just trying to get into it, and you're watching a video to try and decide which food plot seed you should be planting, that means you're probably, you know, thinking about it a lot. I don't want to say you're an overthinker, but you're definitely trying to analyze it and come up with what's going to be best. It makes it really tough to do that when you're selling products that are essentially the same thing, just with different names on it. You know, for somebody like me who would be trying to figure out, okay, what should I plant? That just gets a little bit confusing. So overall, just to kind of recap on the Domain products, they're going to be really affordable for you and really accessible. You could go pick them up at Fleet Farm the day that you're planning to go plant your food plots. That's really huge. When it comes to something like this, you're not having to wait for them to be shipped. You're not having to pay for shipping and handling costs. So there's a lot of benefit to that. We've had success. Jake has had success growing those plots. They're growing in sandier conditions. So it's a good seed at a good price, very accessible. Like I said, the real downside that I see is because they have so many different varieties, it can be a little confusing trying to pick which one you might want to go with. But, you know, to somebody else, maybe that doesn't really matter that much. And my advice would just be, don't overthink it. If you want to plant a Brassica blend, which would be like your radishes and turnips, don't overthink it. Pick one, try it out, see what works. You know, if you wanted to plant a different blend that was maybe, you know, peas and oats or something like that, or a sugar beet, don't overthink it. Just pick one, try it, and go with that, and you'll probably be in good shape. All right, if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate if you could take the time to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our future content, and I'll get right back into talking about these seeds. So the next one I want to talk about is the one that got it all started for me. This is the first food plot brand that I ever planted. This is the Big and Beasty by Frigid Forage. So I found out about this one watching Midwest Whitetail, watching all their YouTube videos. This was a big connection that they had. They were always posting about it. And so when I first, you know, started my food plot adventure, this was the first one that I went with. And I have to say, I was pretty blown away by how well it produced for us. It's about 50 bucks for an acre, so that's right on par with the Domain. And again, not every variety from Domain is going to be 50 bucks an acre, but this one, the Showstopper in particular, is. A lot of them are right around in that same price range. This one, this Brassica blend, the Big and Beasty, is also 50 bucks to plant an acre, but I haven't found it in stores anywhere. That doesn't mean that it's nowhere to be found across the country, but I did have to pay for shipping and handling to get this here. So in your overall cost, it is going to bump that up a little bit. But like I said, when I planted this at first, I was pretty blown away by how big those turnips and radishes grew to be. Now, this was the first one I ever planted. I didn't use any fertilizer, didn't balance the pH with lime or like a plot start or a plot boost or anything like that. So that was an experience on my part. But despite having none of that, they still grew to be softball size radishes and turnips. I think if you were to, you know, spread your lime, spread your fertilizer, and actually treat the food plot properly, you could probably get them to be the size of volleyballs. I mean, they really grow to be big. Now, one thing that I noticed was they did tend to turn a little bit yellowish purple in that October time frame. Now, being in Wisconsin, northern climate, we're planting late July, early August. So, you know, again, it's going to kind of turn that yellowish purple color if it's lacking nutrients. That's on me for not providing the nutrients in fertilizer. But I will say in some of the other plots that I have planted since then, they haven't necessarily turned that, even if I didn't have enough fertilizer in there. So it kind of makes me wonder, I think these are maybe growing so fast and so big that they're taking up more nutrients than maybe some other varieties. Now that's, again, not necessarily scientific, that's just anecdotal based on my experience. So they may need more attention with fertilizer and lime and things like that than some other seed varieties would. They all need it, but this one in particular might need a little extra care. So if you're really on a budget and you're really not looking to spend a lot of extra money on fertilizer, that might not be the way to go. But if you're, in a position where you've got a plot that you really want to take good care of, and you're gonna, go all out with balancing your pH and taking care of all the nutrients in the soil, I think you could really go crazy with this and really have a nice, appreciable plot. So to wrap up on the Big and Beasty, the first one I ever went with, we're in a pretty good soil climate there, not sandy like Jake had with the Domain, better soil, but it really takes up a lot of nutrients. You're gonna wanna fertilize it, you're gonna wanna balance the pH, as you would with any of these, ideally, but if that's a limitation, this one may grow a little bit too quick and too big to where you might have to go with something else. But if you can get those nutrients in the soil, it's a really impressive seed blend. You're gonna get some really big growth on that. And if that's your goal, if you're like, hey, I wanna have the biggest radishes and turnips in the whole neighborhood, that's 100% what I would plant to get there. The downside that I see on this one specifically, again, the nutrient uptake, you're really gonna have to get your fertilizer right. And then secondly, the fact that you would have to pay for shipping and handling makes it a little bit more expensive than something like Domain that's available in stores. All right, so on to the next seed variety. This is one I don't have here with me. I also don't have the personal experience with it, but Colby and Eli, who again have done a lot of great things on this channel, shot a lot of really nice big deer, and have some really nice food plots out there. They're the ones who do have some experience with that. And I talked to Colby in particular. He said he was extremely impressed by both the Whitetail Institute and Northwoods Whitetail seed varieties. He's planted a Clover blend from Northwoods Whitetail that he said was the best stand of clover he's ever had. Now that one is about 25 bucks per bag, and a bag plants 1/4 of an acre. So you'd be looking at 100 bucks to plant an acre of clover. But that's another one that could be, clover is only going to work in specific situations. You can find naturally growing clover all over the place. So, clover is one that in certain situations, certain properties could be the right way to go. If you're looking for a Brassica blend, I know Northwoods Whitetail has one that's pretty much on pace here, 25 bucks to plant half an acre. So again, you're in that 50 bucks to plant an acre, which is right where the Domain and the Big and Beasty are as well. Now you might see these sometimes in stores. I have seen some products from Whitetail Institute at Fleet Farm. They've got some different things out there, so you may be able to avoid some shipping costs there. I know they don't have their full catalog of products available at Fleet Farm in particular. Maybe they do at some other stores, but that could be another one where you may have to incur some shipping costs, so that's definitely something to consider. But from what Colby had told me about planting with the Northwoods Whitetail seed blends and then Whitetail Institute, he had nothing but good things to say. I think they had just planted them last year, maybe the past couple of years, and he's got no intentions of really going away from that. I think that's going to be a staple in their food plot program for years to come. So he said that for this year, they're going to plant primarily Northwoods Whitetail products, especially that Clover blend that kind of blew them away. But he also is going to be planting the Whitetail Institute Trophy Oats. He said last year the deer absolutely crushed them. So nothing but good things to say about the Trophy Oats from Whitetail Institute and the Clover from Northwoods Whitetail. That's a pretty premier property that they're planting on. He's actually planting on a couple different ones, but I've seen some of the bucks that have been shot there, and it's definitely one where if you can earn their praise, you're doing something right. So that's a good endorsement for both Northwoods Whitetail and Whitetail Institute products. So last but not least then, to wrap it all up, the food plot seed company that I have gone with over the past couple of years is Pure Wildlife Blends. You probably would know them better as Whitetail Habitat Solutions. Jeff Sturgis has the YouTube channel Whitetail Habitat Solutions, and then they kind of converted that into this seed company. And what made me switch to them is, again, no association or affiliation, but I really do credit that YouTube channel with a lot of my development as a hunter, with everything from food plots to mock scrapes to better access into the land, setting up for the wind better. Their catalog on their YouTube channel is pretty much unmatched. I've never seen anything like it. Just so much free knowledge out there that could help out a beginner hunter like I was and help to elevate them to the next level. So because all of that stuff is out there on the internet for free and it helped me so much, when they started the seed company, that just kind of made me want to go that route and, you know, in a way, I guess, kind of pay it back for, you know, the information that they had given me for all those years, you know, free of charge, just out there on YouTube. So I thought, you know what, I'd give them a shot. Now, we started planting their Brassica blend, had a lot of success with that. Again, because of their channel, I got a lot better at making sure that I had my lime spread, so my pH was balanced, and I had my fertilizer put out properly. So, you know, some of the earlier products like the Big & Beasty that I used that maybe didn't get a fair shake from me because I didn't know that I had to do all of that extra stuff to actually get, you know, the most out of that seed. They had the benefit of now I had learned all of that stuff, and so the food plot had produced a lot better than some of the seeds I had used in the past because I had that extra knowledge. This one in particular that we're going to plant this year is their Fall Power Greens. That's more of a pea and oat variety with some other things in there, rather than a Brassica like a radish and turnip. Now this one's a little bit more expensive. It's going to be the most expensive out here. The Fall Power Greens are 60 bucks. For a 20-pound bag, and this bag plants 1/3 of an acre. So if you were going to plant a whole acre of the Fall Power Greens from Pure Wildlife Blends, you'd be looking at 180 bucks to plant an acre of it. Now their Brassica blend, they have a couple different ones. Their main one is 40 bucks to plant half an acre, so you're looking at 80 bucks for an acre, and you will have to pay for shipping on both of these. So it's definitely, you're paying for more of a premium there. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be the most expensive of any that we talk about today. But to me, what I feel like sets them apart, what you're getting is, you're getting a whole YouTube channel that comes with it that is telling you and showing you exactly how to plant it, when to plant it, what to do. The other thing, you know, again, credit to them, is they respond to like almost every comment on YouTube. So I've personally gone on there and had questions about their seed blends, left the comment under one of their new videos, and got a response still that day. So I think, to me, that's kind of what sets them apart. Some of these other ones may do that too. You may have a customer service email, you could reach out, you could get some information on. I'm not saying that doesn't exist with the other ones. But for me, it's a huge selling point to have that accessibility, to have an entire catalog of YouTube videos, not just showing how to plant the food plot, but specifically for their seed blends. So you know, hey, you know, if I follow exactly what they're doing here, they're planting the same seed that I'm planting, I should be getting, you know, very similar results. I've also found that their instructions are very clear when it comes to planting and fertilizing. They make sure that all the instructions are on their website. They also send you a little instruction sheet with the seed when you order it, so that you really have no excuse to not know the proper steps for planting. The other cool thing is they show you exactly, you know, especially if you're using these earthway spreaders, they show you exactly what setting you need to have that on for the seed blend that you're going to be planting. That was something I had a ton of anxiety about when I first got started, because I'm using this Big & Beasty, and it says, you know, you don't want to overseed it. So it says, you know, spin that fast and walk fast. And after I had got done making my first lap, I was like, man, I don't know if that's enough. And again, what probably cost me with the Big & Beasty was I went back and made another lap because I didn't trust it. And I wanted to, you know, make sure that I planted enough. And so when you have that peace of mind with somebody specifically telling you the exact setting that you need to put your spreader on, that just helps to make it so much more precise. So again, just another advantage, in my opinion, when you're going with something like the Pure Wildlife blends. Where I'm conflicted on them is the accessibility of information and the precision of the information makes them very beginner friendly. The problem is you're looking at a premium price for the seed, and you're paying a pretty penny for shipping and handling. So it's the beginner level of information, but a more advanced level of, hit to the pocketbook. Now, I've mentioned it a few times, but it can't be overstated, and I want to make sure we cover this here. The most important thing you can do, no matter what brand you choose, no matter what variety you choose, whether it's brassicas or peas and oats or whatever, doesn't matter, clover, whatever you're planting, you need to make sure that your pH is balanced properly and that you're fertilizing it properly, or you're not going to get the maximum potential out of this seed, period. So I've used pelletized lime in the past. I've used powdered lime in the past, literally taking a 50-pound bag and just shaking it out on the ground, picking up another one and just doing that for a whole acre of a food plot. You can use like a plot start is a good product out there, which is a liquid version if you've got a sprayer. And then they have a plot boost, which is kind of like a fertilizer, again in liquid form. I've used pelletized fertilizers. With the Pure Wildlife blends, they tell you specifically what type of fertilizer you should use, when it should be applied, how much per acre. A lot of these other ones will get that information as well. You can definitely find it out there, but that's something that I would recommend paying attention to. I didn't at first, and I deeply regretted it now, because you can just see that there's so much more potential that you can get out of these seeds when you're addressing pH concerns with your lime and you're addressing nutrient concerns with fertilizer. If you don't do that, plant whatever you want, you're not going to get the most potential out of it. So you have to make sure that that stuff is taken care of in order to get the full potential out of anything that you're planting. All right, so again, I hope you guys got some useful information out of this video. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our future content. We are going to be very excited to get some of these seeds in the ground here over the next couple weeks. Hopefully it cools down for us a little bit before then. It's 95 degrees today. I'm sweating my butt off. But the rain that we've had over the past couple weeks, we'll keep taking that. That's going to definitely help to make these guys grow. And then we'll be out hunting before too long. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.